Good evening, Warriors, and welcome to another edition of the R&R Sports Report. I'm your host, Randy Isbell. With me, as always, Robert Hagan. Robert, man, we say this every week, but man, it's been a week.
It's been a real week as I'm dealing with car problems, getting ready to go to Vegas, and when all this starts happening now, so it's going to be an interesting few days here, as I still have to go and finish packing. I'm about half packed, but
And you are leaving Thursday
after school, heading to Spokane, fly out Friday, so then bowl Sunday, Monday, so it'll be then taking a little R&R time, so.
We're doing R&R time right now.
Rest and relaxation time, yeah.
And then
you did it already, so it's my turn.
Yes. So that being said, the show next week, who knows? It'll be me and somebody, and we will figure out timing.
And we even talked about that. I even asked Denny, the Hall of Famer, Denny Grubb. He's probably already listening. But asked him, I said, well, what about you filling in? And then I forgot all about CCC tournament.
Yeah, we got Cascade Conference tournaments Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Lewiston has their regionals Monday and Tuesday and possibly Thursday. And we're not sure exactly like set times for that just yet. So it'll be up in the air. We'll post it on there about who will be on there with me, and then if it'll be a normal Tuesday or it'll be something. We will figure it out. However, this most likely will be the last time we're in studio for this school year. Because again, May is completely up in the air. Because after Cascade, we have the opening round, and then we have the World Series, and
I think
school's done.
I think you and I both work or scheduled to work.
We'll find out.
I think I got to ask the boss over here. I think both of us are working during that time.
So. Yeah, so we'll find out, and then we'll keep everyone posted throughout the month of May, and then come June, it'll be the spring break version of the show, and that's when we.
Why don't we just set up cameras? We'll both take our computers, we'll set them up, we'll do it while we're doing.
We tried that last year, and the internet.
We'll be in the booth this year. Last year we were outside trying to do it up on top.
They try to get rid of us as much as possible there. That's why they sent us 300 feet away.
That's a good place for me.
Yes. So we kind of hinted at it. We actually, before we introduce Alisha, who is gracious enough to come back on the show for the
I think she's the new
fourth
leader.
time.
I think you're the new leader.
I think she's been the leader.
Well, Khalil's close.
Yeah, Khalil tried. But I do think Alisha is leading the way and just padding her stats at this point. Though this is the first time we've had you in studio, I believe. Every time it's been online.
Yeah, I think so.
I've been here multiple times. By the way, you're coming real hot in these things.
You hold on. Let me. How is that better for you on your okay? Yeah, you have to understand that we were trying to figure out which headphones were Robert's, and Robert's deaf.
That explains it.
So that is probably why it was coming in so hot. I think this might be the first time Alisha is coming on in the studio. I'll just pop her in here right now. I mean, she got to turn the microphone so she can talk into it. But
can you hear me now?
Turn it.
I did. I tried. There we go.
There. Now I can hear her now.
Now we can hear me. I hear myself.
Done any of this stuff apparently. But yeah, I think fourth time on the show. But usually it's been setting up different seasons, so it's either before we come back or
wrapping up. And
something
last time was
is going on
during the right before basketball playoffs and right when baseball was starting. I think.
Yeah. So full year of normalcy-ish compared to last year.
Yeah, it really was.
How did it go?
I mean, we're not done yet. We've still got the entire month of May, which is going to be an entire season of itself, with 3 tournaments. But I mean, overall, if you look at just how our teams did, some would say went better than expected. Women's basketball did better than expected. And we saw people step up and play roles that, they had big shoes to fill from last year. You had Callie Stevens, Khalil Stevenson, and then men's golf came out of, I don't want to say nowhere, but they were not in the top 25 last year, and they definitely are this year. And they didn't win the conference tournament, but they did finish the season with the best scoring average in the Cascade Conference and 4 of the 7 all-conference selections.
Yeah, you hear the name Caruso and both of our players there. And then the youngest sibling does really good at high school one here this last week.
Yep,
and so
Chase.
It's just like, all right, sign him up too. We're just going to add him to the mix.
Right.
So it's just crazy. With everything going on, and baseball, you're in and out of the box so much. It's just crazy.
Yeah.
I don't think we've ever really dived into how much do you do
Oh gosh.
as the SID. I mean, you're all over the place. You were
Mhm.
camera in your hands this weekend
Mhm.
and all that. Dive in a little bit. I mean, I know your plate is like
The big-
overflowing, but
yes. I mean, pick a day. Any given day, it's something different. When it comes to baseball game day, I'm in charge of the video board, the live stream, the live stats, getting game day stuff posted, whether it's the links for all that stuff, the social media, the press release. If someone needs to do an interview, helping get that interview sorted out. I think that covers it. Submitting stats online. I mean, Denny does the stats in game. Other sports, I'll do the stats in game, and I just make sure everything gets submitted properly and communicate with the other schools. I think that's it on a game day. I don't know.
that's just game
And
day.
that's if no other sports are going on. And she's
Exactly.
covering
Or
that
you'll see,
stuff.
or if there's track going on, you'll hear me, yelling in the press box, Clayton Van Dyke school record, Madigan Kelly school record.
Every game, every
Every
single game, she did that.
I did.
We did it this week.
Track wasn't even competing, and she just say it because that's what we just got so used to. I think.
Yeah, exactly. And this weekend also, were you there?
I was, yeah.
You know what I'm talking about, for the momentous occasion that occurred in the press box?
Yep,
You were both there.
Yep.
The biggest thing that's probably happened all year. I got a bingo.
Yeah,
she won.
She finally won bingo.
And
It
she
took
rearranged the cards on the board.
No, I did not do that. That was
Donnie?
Mark.
Okay, Mark.
That was Mark. But yes,
The cards were rearranged. Donnie got put to the bottom.
Sorry, Donnie.
I don't think anybody even won bingo at all this weekend, did they? Other than Alisha?
No, I think
we
somebody.
did.
We did.
Did we have
had
somebody win?
Yeah.
I was always on the other side of
Yeah.
the press box.
We had a
pay
bingo
attention, but-
in the fourth inning of
Wow.
Sunday's game. Yeah,
Yeah.
so it was over.
It was early.
It was done over. So we didn't have to
the
read anything
things you
else.
do in the press box to pass some time, especially on that game on Saturday where they had to score 29 runs. And it
7
was
innings.
very, very exciting, but
29 unanswered runs.
Yes.
But
Yeah.
let's make sure we clear that.
Yeah. I didn't even have time to think about that part because we had the P1FC unveiling that morning, and then we
Mhm.
played, the game where there's 31 runs scored in 7 innings, and then we had the Hall of Fame that night, and track ran that day.
How was that phone call Friday night when you had to call? Was it you that ended up calling about the field? The
Oh
sprinklers
my
thing?
goodness, yeah.
So that's part of the reason why we didn't have 2 games.
So, yeah, I got a text saying, "Hey, the field looks kind of flooded," and I called the assistant coach and I said, "Hey, the sprinklers are still on in the field. There's a lot of wet, and there's an app that we use to control the sprinklers that froze, so the sprinklers stayed on, and the field, took on a lot of water, but." I mean, they were out there till 10 o'clock at night. They were working on it. They worked on it all morning, and we were able to get a game in. And what's nice is that 4th game we didn't need that 4th game because
Mhm.
with the 3 wins, Bushnell was done. We had already clinched top seed the weekend before, so now the field. I mean, they had the day off yesterday and today, so the field's been able to kind of just chill. Plus, the rain didn't help. I mean, the field
Right.
with sprinklers, then you add on the rain, so everything they did the night before was just gone. So that was brutal.
Yeah. The weather itself, just as somebody that works at the Tribune too, has just been a headache.
It's been
As
bad
far
this
as
year.
all the games getting canceled, or if you live in Grangeville, snow.
Mhm.
Yeah, I get a call yesterday that late in their game it started snowing on them. It's like it's May. Can we just please move on? Like they're supposed to play Friday, but the weather's supposed to be horrible up there, so they're like, well, we might move it to Wednesday. They won't tell us if they do or not. They'll just call, and then Don will get mad because our schedule's wrong because schedule changes every day.
That's why we did the
17
show.
schools we covered.
That's why we did the show on Monday last week. You had to work so many hours. You had so many games.
it was
you
a
went
mess.
early,
Mhm.
and then how many of them got
Right.
canceled?
I mean,
And now it'll all be this week. So.
Even the rescheduled games. I know for Lewis and softball, we had games with Lake City that didn't happen, and then the rescheduled date didn't happen because we had more weather. And now there's even JV games getting rescheduled just because of the lack of umpires because
Mhm.
they have to reschedule these games still. It's
Yeah.
insane.
Yeah, we always said that during basketballs. Like we had our own bingo at the Tribune. It's refs, weather, lack of players, COVID. You had all of that stuff
Mhm.
canceling different games at all times.
You gotta love Mother Nature. That's all it is to it.
For sure.
Mother Nature.
Yeah.
So we do have the Cascade Conference this week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday.
Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Yep.
We know the 4 teams. We know the first matchups. My question, real quick, is because we were trying to figure out tiebreakers and if the British Columbia thing mattered or not. British Columbia finishes a half game ahead of College of Idaho, but gets the 3 seed. Why?
So there were games that had to be made up between EOU and UBC, and they just declined to play the game. They didn't want to go all the way. They didn't want to go all the way to Canada. They actually asked if they could use our field on Saturday, but the only problem is there's no hotels available on Saturday, which is why we had to move the schedule of the tournament to Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday anyway. So they just said, we just won't play the game. We'll take the 3 seed because all it does is change which dugout they're in. That's all it is. Because they were 2 or 3 regardless, and C of I, they were going to play C of I. It was just what dugout they were going to be in, really, and who hits first. That's
what Danny and I were talking about. It was like, it just depends on how much you really care about being the quote unquote home team, or if you want to bat second, or Danny kept saying, just do a coin flip. Like at this point, it's not a big deal.
That was the conversation pretty much all day in the press box there Saturday afternoon was what were the scenarios we were running, what was happening, because you were following. We all had our job. You were following the Corbin games happening, and so, I mean, between Danner, yourself, Danny, myself, Alisha, we were all, and Mark, we were all bouncing.
There's so many possibilities.
What was the possibilities? Things that are happening.
Yeah, luckily, again, LC had the 1 seed locked up. College of Idaho was already locked into the tournament, just depending on what seed they were in, and they were done as far as conference games goes. But the rest of those games, it was just like anything could happen.
Yeah, everybody except for maybe EOU were still in playoff contention at that point. I mean, EOU was playing to win their last games of the season, but everybody else was playing for, number 4, the 4 seed, and Corbin ended up taking it, who just happens to be the only team that has beat us twice this year.
Yeah, and they have some insane pitching, and
they do.
We were trying to figure out in the press box, again, Denny and I were talking about this. It's what do you, I mean, take yourself out of the shoes of LC. LC obviously has the automatic bid into the opening round, but one other spot, it will be taken from one of these 3 teams. If you're Corbin, you have 2 stud pitchers that can beat anyone in the country.
Yeah.
Do you sit them against LC and just try to make sure you beat the other 2 teams? Or do you try to beat LC for the 3rd time this year and then just need to win one more? It's really
And I mean, that's kind of how it goes at series too, with it being double elimination. You'll see teams at series not throw their ace in the first game because they still have another game to work with. So it's not you're going to save that guy for the elimination game to keep you in the tournament, as opposed to, getting that day off after you win game 1 or something like that.
It'll be really interesting.
Yeah, it's the goal here is, I mean, everybody wants to beat LC State. I get it, but when it comes to like do or die in these situations, their goal's got to be get to the championship game. Like if you're going to lose to LC, okay, but don't lose to anybody else, and that's when it's going to, save Zach Simon. Don't throw Zach Simon in game 1. Throw Zach Simon, whoever you play next.
Right.
And that's the guy they're going to save for sure.
So go ahead.
No, I was going to ask the big thing that I was seeing, is how good we were talking about ranking teams as everything we were with the discussion of Hall of Fame this week. And so you always throw out best teams and you see some of these players. And I know this is early in your career here in some of the earlier games, but how would you rate this team? Because one thing that stood out to me, and it was just because our buddy Perry Black had posted a comment of a past Soton Panther was made the top 10 in batting average for LC, and I got to diving in and looking at it. 5 guys out of the top 10 have the highest batting average in the conference. So can you rank this team as one of the?
It's all it's gonna come down to is the postseason. You can't rank an LC team, I think, until the postseason's done and a banner is raised or not. I've heard talks that, I'm talking to the guys around the team last year, Jack Johnson, saying that this year's team is better than last year's team. We've got the pitching depth, but it's also hard to compare. Yes, we got off to the greatest start in program history. Yes, we had the longest winning streak in program history, but you look at the strength of our conference, and that's hard when they were playing in the 80s and 90s. They're playing, WSU, Gonzaga. They're playing higher caliber teams, whereas the Cascade, granted, C of I had a good year. UBC was not up to the normal standards. You had EOU in the second year, Bushnell in its first year. I mean, you look at how we did in the early part of the season when we're beating those ranked teams, but it's still early. It's still the first games for all those teams. So it's hard to say. I mean, they're definitely better. I don't say definitely better, but they're deeper than last year. They have the options in the outfield. They have the options both starting rotation and the bullpen. But it's really going to come down to how they do against the higher caliber teams.
Yeah, it's always crazy to see, LC playing, like you said, a Bushnell first year program. Had a lot of talent for just building
That was brutal.
that school up. That game was rough on that. It was like a terrible wake up call. But there's a lot of talent on that Bushnell squad for the first year. And then you go and you look at games in the NAI around the country, and it's a bunch of the number 3 seed or team in the country is playing the number 6 team, and like
because a lot of that talent
they get built up throughout.
Centrally located too.
Yeah.
You're getting towards the South and the Midwest, and that's where a lot of that's where a lot of NAI teams are. But you look at the South, you've got Faulkner and Georgia Gwinnett, and then the teams in Florida with Kaiser and Southeastern. That's why like we go to Southern California and Arizona in the beginning of the year. They're looking at going to Florida next year to take on the South Georgia Gwinnetts and the Tennessee Wesleyans because that's who you see in postseason.
Right.
Because you're not gonna see Corbin that far into the postseason. You're not gonna see the Bushnells, the EOUs. Who knows what C of I could do? C of I is kind of a wild card in my opinion. They've got one of the best hitters in the country, in Jonah Holtberg. But aside from that, we don't get a lot of non-conference action in the middle of the season because of where we're located.
Yeah, and it's kind of what we see with Gonzaga as far as basketball too. It's all these people that you see that are detractors of LC. A lot of it is the automatic bid that LC got for years, but other than that, it's just, they don't play anybody all year. It's like, where do you want them? Where do you want them to go? There's not a conference that LC's like avoiding.
No, we play the GNAC schools and we destroy the GNAC schools. We've played Seattle U and we beat Seattle U. Washington State won't play us. It's hard. Basketball can games with Gonzaga, but baseball's not going to games with Gonzaga. It's not like we can go play U of I. They don't have baseball, so it's hard. That's why they travel so much in the beginning of the season before conference starts. And
then even then, I mean, with the conference and stuff, there's only so much traveling you can do.
Yeah.
And then when conference starts, all that kind of goes away. So it's one of those tough situations. And then it's like you said, every time we get into World Series time and playoff time, it's we think this team's good.
Yeah.
And now it's time to find out.
And they were good last year. They went far. They went to the semifinal last year, and they have the depth that they needed this year. So, I mean, who knows? Every team seems to have lost somebody big. Faulkner doesn't have Antonio Farias anymore, and that's who shut us out last year. The only shutout in Denny knows however many years.
And he's listening right now, and he says he kind of agrees. He says, in the words, great coaches, both Chef and Kirch, throw the best guy when they're ready. When they're ready to go, throw them out there. So,
yep.
I had to move it.
You okay?
Yeah, I had to move it up.
So we were talking about depth as far as LC goes. How big is Nick Siemens coming back into the outfield?
That's huge, not just from the standpoint of his defense and his offense, but just a morale boost for the team to know that they have. They're a little more confident having him out there as opposed to Matt James and Zach Threlfall did what they could, but they're catchers. Granted, Threlfall has some experience out there. They can take reps all they want, but it's hard to go from a catcher to an outfielder. So having someone who's naturally gifted in the outfield helps. Yeah, you take one of those bats out of the lineup, but then you also have that bat that can come off the bench. So really that bolsters your outfield and the depth on your bench when it comes to pinch hitting. Because now, before you had, Charlie Updegrave, but now you have either Matt James, Zach Threlfall, or Justin Mazzone ready to go too. So that helps a ton.
You said the name. I have to just throw it out there. How about Updegrave?
Dude, 2 Grand Slams in one season. Denny, I'm still waiting on the answer for that one, by the way. I know Kyle Green had 2 in the same game. He did tell me that. But
I think he found 4 was the record, is what he had in there.
There were some monster shots, and his was one of them. That was just crazy to see come off his bat. So
we had 14 home runs in 3 games. We had 7 on the first day, 2 from Siemens, 2 from Nagel, Coy, Luke, and Charlie's Grand Slam. And then we had, I think, 2 from Pooh on Sunday.
Oh, so that Grand Slam was awesome.
Yeah, a walk-off run rule Grand Slam. Yeah, not too shabby.
After you give up 4 runs in the top half of the inning, you're like, well, I guess we're playing the full game now.
And then, Pooh Connie just comes and ends the game. Nick Siemens had another home run. He had 3 hits on the weekend. All 3 were home runs.
Right. You had Riley. Riley had one too.
Joe Canny. So, his second hit as a Warrior. First was a double, and then his second was a home run over the batter's eye. And can we talk about Riley for a second?
Yeah.
He hit 800.
Yeah, it was crazy.
8 for 10. with a 1,300 slugging percentage.
It was the most quiet 8 for 10
it
ever.
really was. Because you were saying he was on pace for 8 for 8 in the first game because they pulled him after he was 4 for 4 to put the other guys in.
And he got pulled on the second game on Saturday too.
Yeah.
I mean, because everyone did in both of those games. But yeah, get to the end, I'm like, I'm kind of surprised Riley won Player of the Week, and then I started typing out, like, it was 8 for 10.
Yeah.
All right.
Insane.
I never mind.
He where we picked our MLB players, I almost put
really?
I almost put LCFC in there just because of
Odell had 5 in 1983. Denny Krupp says so. It was 5.
Well, there's that argument for the best team in LC history right there.
Right.
Yeah, and you can't talk LC baseball without 1983.
Yeah.
83 is.
I can. That was a year before I was born.
Well,
I mean, I know you were there and you're graduated.
I probably attended. I know I was at the 80. I know I was at the 87s playoffs time for 87 because that was just before my grandfather passed away, and I remember my great grandfather would bring me over here for games. So yeah, I mean, that's one of those years that you have to talk about.
No, that was fun when we so we have the VHS from '83. So Kelsey and I.
For the kids out there that are listening to the show, a VHS was a rectangle that no, never mind.
We had to transfer it to DVD.
Yeah.
So we sat there and in real time it would transfer to DVD. So Kelsey and I are sitting there watching. She did most of it. I watched a couple of games, but we had to watch it, and then I had to go through and find the clips to use for Hall of Fame, for the highlight video for Hall of Fame, and it was crazy. I mean, the audio wasn't great, but it's cool to see the players whose names I've heard before. I've heard Jim Odell's name, obviously. He was the first NAI player of the year we had. Rich Medina. Obviously, I've heard Gary Ballmer quite a bit with him being Alan's dad and him, being Gary Ballmer.
Mm-hmm.
But it was cool to see it in action. And I did not watch the end. I didn't want to watch the last game. I didn't want to see what everybody talked about with that strikeout looking. No, I'm good. Mm-hmm. But it was cool to see it all in action and just see, Chef coaching third and listening to a play-by-play from the 80s.
There you go.
Yeah.
All right. So just kind of run down the month of May, which is just insane. So Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, we have the Cascade Conference. It's Thursday we get the opening round selection show.
Yes, Thursday is the opening round. Is the the selection show.
Like 1 p.m. local time, I think.
2. I think it's 2.
1 or 2? Yeah.
I think it's 2:00. It's 4 p.m. Central. They've already released the opening round locations, so we already know some of the teams that are in because some of those teams do have the host bid similar to us. We get in, we're hosting opening round, they're hosting opening round, and they also get in.
So obviously, first time LC's been a part of an opening round. Just kind of explain to people how that works.
So an opening round is basically a regional. Basketball, we hosted the basketball opening rounds last year, and it's you win the opening round and you get to the final site. You win the opening round to get to Lewiston. So we win the opening round, we are in series. So we will have 4 or 5 teams here in Lewiston. It'll be a tournament similar to series, double elimination. Winner moves on, and we hope to be the one standing at the end of the day.
Yeah, it's going to be really, really interesting. First time that we've had to go through that. I'm very happy that we are.
Yes,
because I am one of those that, while I absolutely love seeing LC in the World Series every year, we shouldn't get the auto bid in and have to earn it. And I'm glad the opening round's here because it's just more baseball that I get to watch. But
we talked about last year, that time off a little bit. How much does that play into the minds? And we discussed it a few times last year about it, that we thought that was maybe a huge piece why they didn't get past there in that semifinal. So
yeah. Because everybody says, you take a week off, it's an advantage. It's like you take a week off and you're not playing. You're not seeing the good competition. You're sitting there. You can play. I mean, they play against themselves all fall and they scrimmage themselves in the spring. But not having a week of competition that everybody else has, in my opinion, is going to hurt you.
So that's May 16th through the 19th. And then 8 days later, the World Series happens. Play devil's advocate here. Obviously, it's not something that we want to see, but if LC does not make it through the opening round, how important is it for people still to show up for the World Series?
If the Valley wants the series to stay in Lewiston, they have to be at the series whether the Warriors are in it or not, because they keep it here because people come to watch.
Yep.
When they moved it after 91, they played in Florida, they played in Iowa, they played in minor league stadiums, and no one went. No one went to watch. So it's a lot more exciting to win a national title in front of packed stands than just your parents in the stands with nobody else there. And this Valley revolves around baseball. It really does. It's got such a rich history of baseball. So the fans are going to show up. We sell out for championship games. I haven't been here for LC to win a game yet, but we're still sold out when we have championship games. And I remember 2019 was my first one. It was Tennessee Wesleyan. It was the Neyland year. And those stands were packed and everybody was rooting for Tennessee Wesleyan because of that incredible little boy. And we were at, 60, 65% capacity last year, and the stands were packed as much as, we could allow with COVID. And they were there to watch Georgia Gwinnett win a national championship because this valley loves baseball.
Yeah, national championships have always been good. Obviously, I don't know what the numbers look like, but they look like, not only because of the capacity issues that we had for the World Series, but I just feel like everything overall was down just because of the weather. And
yeah, it was a rough year. We had snow
brutal.
during games. Why?
Well, we had snow at the beginning, but World Series, we wished we had snow. Because I remember
was
like
so hot during
110
series.
degrees, like
It was-
nothing.
Yeah, well, and then the 2019 series, we had rain problems.
Yeah.
So if we could just get a little bit of nice weather, that'd be great.
Refresh my memory. So you and Randy and I have always been there on Mondays, and we would buy tickets. And that Monday we spend all day at the ballpark, and we sit there and do that. I think, what was it, 18, when it was so hot that we spent more time
at home
and then driving back and forth and all that. That was also the year that we had the sprinkler break, if I remember right.
Sprinkler behind home plate broke. We wanted to jump in it. It was not as quite as hot as last year's. Last year's was brutal.
Yeah, you guys could sit in the air conditioned press box though.
Yeah, now we're the cool people.
We're moving up.
We actually, 2018. Yeah, there's a fun story. We made the mistake of, it's so hot, we're gonna go try to get in shade, and we sat next to the press box. That turned into a pizza oven because it's just a brick building. That lasted an inning.
Not your
and
best.
We're like, we'll go move over to there.
We'll blame the Grubhub. We'll blame Denny Grubb. It's his press box bounce.
It is the Denny Grubb press box.
So we'll blame him.
He sits right in front of the thermostat. Just saying.
So bounce around a couple other sports here real quick before we wrap it up with you. But tennis had a pretty eventful season. Again, Kai Fong just sends them everywhere.
Well, he has to. If they want to play NAI competition, they can't stay here. C of I is the closest NAI team, and it's just women. So that's why they go to Louisiana. They go to Indiana. They've gone to California before, Arizona, just to play against other NAI teams, because it's not the best when all they can do is play Division I schools. It's good experience, especially William Richard, his final singles match as a Warrior, upset a Division I opponent, top singles. But aside from that, it's hard. And what sucks is when people look at their schedule, they look at their record, they go, why do they have a losing record? Well, they're playing the Big Sky champions. They're playing Idaho, Montana, Idaho State. That's why they have to travel. And then when they travel, they play those ranked teams. Like the men upset Grace College this year. But also it's hard to travel.
Yeah.
It's, it takes a toll on your body. So in my opinion, tennis has the hardest schedule of any program here on campus.
I don't know how many times we went, okay, they're off to Indiana or wherever it was. They're playing 4 different teams. 3 of them are in the top 15.
Yeah.
And they're doing 4 of these matches in a 3-day period. And it's tough. But women finished off their season. They finished 8-7. They beat Whitman 5-4. Was the 3 through 6 singles all took home their wins? I think
so. That score was 5-4. They were doing Division III scoring, so each match was worth a point.
So they got one doubles match in there as well.
Yeah.
Already kind of touched on golf. Fantastic season finish, a little bit short as far as the Cascade tournament.
As far as the automatic goes, the men, they had a better scoring average than UBC. What they lost at was the head-to-head. So UBC won 2 tournament, basically beat the LC men twice. The LC men beat UBC once, and then there was a tie. So that's what hurt them there. They're still definitely in the hunt for the at-large. We'll find out Thursday or Friday if they get the at-large, but you have 2 newcomers, a freshman and a newcomer in there who made an impact immediately. Carlos Davila, who's been, a mainstay here for a couple of years, and then Devin Caruso, who, really upped his game and became a major role player on that team. And Brady, I can't say enough about what Brady Campbell's done since coming here. He completely turned that team around. He did what he could with the women. They really didn't have any recruits coming in, and they lost their top golfer from last year. Alex did a great job. Dina stepped up, but it's still their depth was. They didn't have any depth. They had their 5, and they have a couple girls who are on the team, but their schedules make it really difficult to play. So they did the best that they could, but they've got some really strong recruits coming in next year.
And then, of course, track and field. We already talked about Clayton.
Clayton,
breaking records all the
Madigan,
time.
Jenna.
Matt, it's Annika wins the 400
Yep.
this week.
Yep.
It's just we have said almost weekly on this because you have cross country, then you have the indoor track, and then outdoor track. It's if you're in any of these running sports or track and field sports, you have to break a record to get on this show because our page ends up this big on a normal event. This was just a small little event where only a few people went.
But
and
this is a competitive one.
Yeah.
That's why it was so good. I mean, they were running against a ton of Division I competition. When Clayton ran that 1500, there was an open division, which is what Griffin ran in as well. And then Clayton was in. They didn't have a name for it. It was just 1500, and they had the 1500 Invitational, which is your top runners from Division I and probably some JUCOs and unattached. Clayton beat all of them. There were 71 people who ran a 1500, and Clayton beat all of them.
That's nuts.
And he's only second in the NAI. So he thrives in those super competitive environments. That's why he ran better this weekend, because he was racing against top competition, and that's exactly what he's looking for when it comes to nationals, is that top competition to really push him.
And for Madigan, are you keeping track of every time she breaks a record, and then when she's just done at LC, you can give her this giant list of every time it just got lower and lower?
Out of paper.
It's insane.
Almost every time. I remember when she started indoor, it was just about every single race she ran. She's just getting better, and she's only a freshman.
Yeah.
It's the talent coming out of Lewis in high school is insane, because you have Annika, and then you have Madigan, Jenna Carpenter. Three of those, Madigan, Jenna, and Annika, are in the 4x1 along with Ashley Britt, and then you have Emily Collins, who will be here next year.
And Jenna's on the volleyball team too.
It's the talent level is absurd.
Yeah. It's absolutely insane. I want to say Madigan Kelly even broke her own record in different heats in one event.
She did. She ran the prelim, she broke her record, and then broke it again in the final.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Just every time. It was just
And in the 60, she made it to nationals in the 60-meter hurdles for indoor. It's the 100-meter hurdles for outdoor. The distance gets longer, and she's right now 8th in the NAIA. So I mean, seeding wise, she's in a good spot, because it's the top 8 that are all American, and just with this being this will be her second experience now at a national event. So that girl's got the brightest future.
And we have 2 more events before the Cascade tournament and then nationals?
So there's the Tom Gage Classic in Missoula this weekend. And then it's the Whitworth Last Chance, that we probably won't send our people who have already qualified, but those are people who are still looking to qualify, because the people who have already qualified, our top people are probably going to be resting up for conference, because conference is 13th through the 14th over in Ashland. So a nice little drive for them. But so the biggest regular season meet, the last one at least, will be on Saturday in Missoula.
I hate to say this, and I just because she is a freshman, but we just finished up with Hall of Fame stuff. Could you say, just after one season, that she is in a front runner spot to be eventually in an LC Hall of Fame position?
I mean, if she continues on the path she's on now, it's hard, because yes, she made it to nationals, but she hasn't hit that All-American mark just yet. If she's eventually able to, to hit that All-American mark, possibly, but it's hard to say, because for so long LC has been a distance heavy program, because you have Sam Atkin and Tasha, who just went in, and they were distance runners. A lot of our national champions, I mean, it's been Sam who's running the distance events. We've won multiple titles in the marathon. We have a high jump champ, javelin champ. There's only a few field events, and I can't think of really any sprinters that have won it. So if she's able to carry that on and really help build up the program, then possibly, but I think it's a little soon. But
she's a freshman. Yeah,
she's a freshman, but it's trending that way.
But
yeah, for sure.
You can't get off to a better start.
No, it's unreal what Madigan and Jenna, even you look at people who aren't hitting the qualifications yet, but are still setting those records, like London Kirk, Sydney Zwina from Orofino. They're all local kids. Our track and field program is still relatively new, and the track and field portion of it, as opposed to the distance portion of it, has just never been as strong as it is now. So the coming years are going to be really telling of the strength of the program that we're going to be having here at LC State.
All right, do you want to play judge for a minute?
Oh no, sure.
we know how big of a baseball fan you are, so that is key.
Okay.
So that's the big thing.
So we do a sports related draft every single week here on the R&R Sports Report, where one of us comes up with a goofy topic.
Yeah.
based on sports.
Yeah.
You know, as much as we talked about it in the press box, I don't think she was ever in the area when we were talking about it amongst the
Nope.
four of us.
I'm in my own
Between-
little world over there.
Very true.
Well, Danner was in it, and Denny, and us too. And I don't know if you ever made it over at that
Probably
time.
not. Oh no, if it was in Denny's press box.
And
I
Denny's
probably
stuff.
didn't then, yeah, because I was
Yeah.
dealing with the video board.
All right, so
Which did you get that?
It is
fixed yet?
fixed. As of today, it is fixed. There is audio coming out of the video board again.
there you go. All right, so last week I had best hockey movies. You ended up winning. We both realized real quick we have not watched enough hockey movies for me to make
We'll
that
talk.
topic.
We'll talk about that at the end of
The
the show.
best one's
guys.
Miracle.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Yeah, he had the top pick. I wasn't even upset that I lost that one, but it was
Well-
just we do 3 rounds, and by the 3rd round we went, Mighty Ducks 2.
I've
Sure.
had 5 people tell me we have to watch Mystery Alaska. Have you ever
I've
seen?
never
Mystery-
even heard of that.
and
Me neither.
I looked on Netflix.
Was that the one I had on my list and took off?
Yes, it was. And Darren McCall, Coach McCall of JV, and we'll talk about him later. But he kept pounding me. He says, "You mean you have not watched this?" And it's not on Netflix, so we're gonna have to find it. And we'll have to have a movie night and watch
Yeah.
it. And
I put that on my list for the topic. Then I was like, all right, I have to watch this before the show. And then by Tuesday it came up. I went, I didn't watch it, so I'll just switch it to Mighty Ducks 2 because I've seen that one. But
It's a solid choice.
apparently it's very good. But so I had the last week's topic. So Robert, you get this week's topic.
so this week, as I was sitting there working on This Week in History, it came across the topic of a young man making his start and being the 3rd generation. I thought, let's talk about the best baseball families ever in baseball. Now, I gave him the number 1 team overall, just because I'm a Mariner fan. I'm going to let him have the Mariners, but you got to look at all of them. Hint, hint. There's an Anaheim one in there.
Oh, I know. I'm already there.
Okay. See, I win.
Gosh.
I win already.
I went to his
So-
I went to his Hall of Fame induction. I was there in
Thank you.
Cooperstown.
You
This is-
did.
I
I'm going to
feel
have 2 in a row.
biased
I'm going
already.
to have
We'll
2
see.
wins in a row.
We'll see, because the rest of your families are horrible.
So
that's not true.
when
But
I select the topic, that means Randy gets the first pick. So round 1,
And
first pick
listen,
goes
we're in the
to
Pacific
Randy.
Northwest. I don't like the Mariners. I can't stand the Mariners. I like to make fun of the Mariners, but you cannot go wrong with the Griffies.
Yeah. No. They're
That's the best father-son
Mhm.
combo ever. I mean,
and for the time being.
for now.
Yep.
Until Mike Trout has a kid.
Well, okay. He's got he's
or
he-
Ohtani has a kid.
Oh, Mike Trout has a kid.
Well, I mean, old enough to play.
Oh yeah, no, he's not there yet.
Yeah. So several could possibly come.
Mhm.
And you know,
Half of the Toronto Blue Jays right now.
yeah. You know what Mike Trout's kids' initials are?
Huh.
BAT.
Really?
Beckham Aaron Trout.
I'm RBI.
My sister's ERA, and she was a pitcher.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
All right. So obviously, continue 19 years in the league, over 2,100 hits, nearly 300 in his batting average, 2 World Series rings with Cincinnati, of course, and then of course his son just trumps him with everything minus the World Series rings because he was stuck in Seattle
Mhm.
and went to Cincinnati a bit late, and that team was never good either. But 10 Gold Gloves there. Obviously, the big day in 1990 where they were both in the same lineup on the same team. They both hit a home run against the same pitcher.
Mhm.
So easy number 1 for me.
Yeah, I gave you the easy one. I knew that was going to be if you
Mhm.
didn't take it. And I laughed because I typed the one name of a family in, and he said, heck no. He laughed at me. So
Yeah, we'll talk about that in a second.
we'll talk about that one. But
Horrible.
I knew that one was going to go off the board first. For me, my first pick has to be the Alou family. We're talking about Philippe.
Ugh.
We're talking about Maddie. You're talking about Jesus, which are the guys, the first guys that ever got the 3 of them. And I learned this here that they actually played in the field in a game all together at one point.
That's kind of cool.
And to be able to sit and say, okay, you played out there. Yeah. You look at Philippe, who was probably the best out of the 3. He had a huge career, couple of hit seasons in 15 years. Philippe also had over 200 home runs in 17 seasons. Then you talk about the son. Then you talk about Moises coming out, which is probably
I
better
just-
than all of them.
All I can
Moises,
think
Malou.
about is the injury.
Mhm.
That's
And
all I can think about when it comes to him.
yeah, and that devastating injury for him, I think that's where his thing changed. But
Mhm.
for him to hit over 300 home runs,
Mhm.
300, 330, somewhere in there of home runs, but unbelievable batting average
Mhm.
with him. So I have to lean with the Alous a little bit on their pedigree. Even falls farther down. Moises had 2 brothers that were in the minors, but then you get the nephew that comes out, Mel Rojas. We all know Mel Rojas. We also know Luis. Luis is the manager for the New York Mets for a few years. So the Alou family is huge. So I went with a few extra people that are all involved there. But
It's the one big thing about the Alous is it's just a giant family, and so many of them made the league. They
huge.
If anybody as a wrestling fan, I'm going to. Is it the Anoki family? I always blank on how do you pronounce their last name, but there's a family in wrestling that they're like the Alous. It's the Wild Samoans, it's the Head Shrinkers, it's Rikishi, it's Yokozuna, it's The Rock, it's Roman Reigns. It's like they have everybody. Like if they were big in wrestling and they're from Hawaii, they're from this family. And that's what the Alous is. It's just the family is so big and so many of them made it that you can't go wrong. So my second pick was an easy pick, and then just got better when I learned more stuff. And I actually taught Denny Grubb something once I learned. But exactly.
Yes, well, this was part of the conversation we all had on.
I had to make sure I was getting the
Saturday
rules correctly.
Sunday.
He did tell me Godfathers do not count.
No,
which was disappointing. But it's the Bonds family, so Willie Mays would have nailed it if a Godfather counted. But Bobby Bonds, first player to have 2 seasons of 30-30, 300 home runs, 300 stolen bases in his career. Fantastic. But Barry Bonds, of course,
overshadows that for sure.
Depends on how much you think. I mean, yes. Did the man take steroids? 1,000%. Was he a Hall of Famer before he did? 1,000%.
Were steroids illegal when he took them? No.
Ish.
They were not.
I would say ish.
They were looked over because of the 1994 strike, and McGuire and Sosa fixed baseball. They went, go for it. Yeah. And then it started getting a little upset afterwards. And then, of course,
98.
By the time Roger Clemens rolled around, definitely a no-no.
Yes. And Barry Bonds, if he would have just came out and said, yeah, absolutely.
But he was good before the steroids, too. I mean, he was the highest caliber player before he started taking steroids.
Oh, absolutely. But just the fact that he's still saying he doesn't, like, you're 3 times the size that you were when you were really good.
You can tell Mark McGuire stopped. You can see if you've seen him in person, he stopped.
Yeah.
He got really saggy. But then you see Jose Canseco in person, you're like, oh, you're still taking those because his skin's about to burst.
It's crazy. But the one thing I learned while doing the research, Reggie Jackson is Barry Bonds' cousin.
Oh.
So he is part of the family.
That makes it interesting.
14-time All-Star.
Mr. October.
5 World Series rings. Mr. October. Just has his number retired for both the Oakland Athletics and the New York Yankees.
And I think I shared a piece of information with you too. You knew, I think I shared it, that he did play in Lewiston for the Lewiston Bronx.
Everyone around
Tony
here
La Russa did.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Tony did too. So, all right. So that's Randy's. He went with the Bonds family. So I'm leaning to where I think you know where I'm going. And I'm going to go with the Molina family.
Oh, that's not where I was thinking.
Wow.
Not, but
all right.
Solid choice.
I'm going to go with the Molina family. You talk about Benji. You talk about Jose. You talk about Yadier. All of them all played the same position, catchers.
Did you know that Benji was a shortstop by trade and Jose taught him how to catch?
I did not know that.
So they had family that lived directly across the street from my grandparents.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. So
never met them, but they were right there.
That's crazy.
Very curious what family she is thinking you were going to take.
All right. Well, we'll ask her after we're through here. So Benji and Jose were both teammates. They played for 7 years together.
Won a World Series.
Usually Jose was in the backside. They have 11 total Gold Gloves between them. Benji, like you were saying, has 2 Gold Gloves. He did have a World Series. And with that one, it was with Anaheim.
It was.
And then you get Jose, who was pretty much the backup. He had great numbers. He played for 14 years. Played with Anaheim and got a World Series with your New York Yankees. So 2 World Series.
The last time we got one.
Yep, the last time we got one. But hands down, probably the best one, the youngest one, Yadier. 10-time All-Star, 9 Gold Gloves, Silver Slugger. Still playing right now.
This is
all with the same team. He is at 998 RBIs, so he's just 2 RBIs short of passing 1,000. So for me, you got to go with the Molina family.
That's a good one.
Yeah, listen, Yachty is in that group with Miguel Cabrera and Beltre as my favorite players to watch that never were a Yankee. Just they love the game. They have a lot of fun. Don't say anything bad to Molina.
No.
He will. His smile will turn upside down real quick.
I mean, when they got that scuffle the other day, he was one of the first ones out of the dugout in the middle of it.
But it's just I huge respect for Yachty movie.
Mhm.
So my last route, gotta go back to my Yankee roots, and it's the DiMaggios. I mean, even if Joe DiMaggio's brothers never played in the league, the DiMaggios are a great family. 9-time World Series champion, obviously the 56 game hitting streak. Everyone knows about that as well. But his brother Dominic, who, I mean, I've never even heard of these brothers, so I was looking this stuff up. But 7-time All-Star back in like the 30s and 40s. He's in the Boston Red Sox Hall of Fame. His brother Vince DiMaggio played for 5 different teams from 1937 to 1946, was a 2-time All-Star. So all 3 of them made All-Star teams at some point. But when you have Joe topping that list, it kind of bumps up your family.
We're gonna wait to share Denny's comment and Mike's,
Denny has a bunch of
and
names.
Mike's comment because we want to talk on that. So that was the DiMaggios is his third. For me, it has to be where I kind of grew up watching a little bit of the Atlanta Braves. I learned to watch a little bit. So I'm gonna go with the Necros, with Phil and Joe Necro. The 2 of them combined for 537 wins. That family could throw knuckleballs. Even the son, Lance, was taught how to throw the knuckleball. He could throw it a little bit. Both of them combined for 5 20-game win seasons. They pitched together for 3 years, 1973 and 74 with the Braves, and then in 85 with the Yankees. Phil, Hall of Famer, 5-time All-Star, 5-time Gold Glover, over 3,300 strikeouts. The biggest stat that jumped out at me, he had 716 starts, 245 complete games.
Jeez, that's something you don't see.
So then you look at Joe, also, and that was in a 24-year career. Then you look at Joe, just over 200 wins, an All-Star, not near as many strikeouts, but he also the same thing, 500 games started, over 107 games that were complete games. So the Necro family is known as finishing the game. So that's
when you
where
throw
I'm
it
going to go
72
there.
miles an hour every pitch,
Exactly.
it's a little easier on the arm.
Yeah. So, all right. So the best baseball family. Here are we'll recap really quick. Randy takes the Griffeys, he takes the Bonds, and then he takes the DiMaggios. For me, I'm going to take the Alou family. I take the Molinas, and then also the Necros. Now, there are so many other names out there.
There are so many names that I was expecting that we didn't get.
So I'm going to throw these up here, up on the screen, so the folks at home that's watching can see them. But Denny Grubb, our Hall of Fame buddy, we have the Alomars. You got the Bells, the Boyers, the Cruz, Guerrero, the Ripkins.
That's what I was waiting for Guerrero. I was waiting for Ripken. Yeah.
Yeah. And Gary Sheffield, Uncle, Dwight Gooden.
Notice that Denny Grubb also does not put the Boones.
Yes.
Stop it, people that put the Boones. Yes, there's a lot of people, but Aaron Boone knocks them all down.
I hope my wife's not listening because she is a huge
Brett Boone is great.
Brett Boone fan, second baseman in Seattle.
Brett Boone is great.
There's also Bob Boone.
Yes, Bob Boone.
All the other Boones are great. Whatever. Aaron Boone is horrible.
Guys, the Seegers? Nobody? The Seegers?
No, I mean,
is it still too soon?
I think it's too soon with the Seegers out there.
Okay. Is it too soon for the Guerreros?
Vlad and Vlad.
Vlad Jr. is still pretty early on in his career.
Yeah. I mean, trajectory-wise, he's trending to be better than his dad.
Oh, yeah.
Which is insane because his dad is a Hall of Famer.
Was insane.
That's when you said Angels, that's what I was thinking was the Guerreros.
Yeah. Nobody could hit a ball or hit a pitch off the dirt better than Senior.
Yeah.
No gloves and just hit it a mile.
Yeah.
It was good.
And he could throw the ball too.
Yeah, so there's a lot of families.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a ton. You look at the list, a huge amount of names and even some that we didn't even talk about. Where was the Warner family? I didn't know about that family. And Randy and I talked. It was weird researching all of these and seeing how many people were related to who and this and it just.
I mean, it's one of the first ones that comes to mind just because I'm an Angel fan. The Uptons. That's the one that I was thinking because I mean they played together with the Padres. They were both in the outfield at the same time.
Yeah, Melvin, right? And Justin?
BJ/Melvin,
BJ,
same guy,
yeah.
and then Justin, who I don't know where he's at right now. I felt really bad because I don't think they should have. They optioned Adele. They should have kept Justin Upton.
Where is Upton now? Is he at
I don't
Detroit?
think he signed anywhere. He played for Detroit before. So the fact that they released
it's sad when I put in Justin Upton and the first Google search is what happened to Justin Upton.
Oh no.
Yeah, there's so many names out there. You know, even looking at some of them, you can throw out the Murray. You got the Baez family, the Mantle family. There are so many.
Yeah, he's nowhere right now.
There are a lot. Even Segui. I forgot about David Segui and all of his family. They're all related too. And now as I'm
and one to watch is going to be the Jones, Andrew Jones, and his kid's like what projected one of the top draft picks. That's going to be one to watch in a couple years too. Yeah. So do I pick who's
so you're going to pick who's going to win?
Well,
which team?
Randy.
I told you.
Yeah.
There are days that I know, and there's days that I'm
He had me at the Griffies and the Bonds.
Yeah, the Griffey. And now, see, that's where I disagree because I don't like. It's not.
You know
like
that Bobby Bonds played for the Angels?
I did not know that.
I'm pretty sure he did. Double check that one, but I'm pretty sure he did. Denny.
Denny on top of that. Let's go. Yeah, I knew it was going to be tough when I said.
Yep. 1976 to 77.
When I gave him Ken Griffey, but what brought it up and here and we'll talk about it in This Week in History was we didn't even talk about the Bell family either. David Bell got his start in 1995. That's what triggered everything. And I even messaged Denny on Thursday when I saw the thing, and I said, Denny, I got a question for you. Well, I didn't end up seeing him till Saturday when we finally asked him, but this has sparked a lot of conversation between everybody.
And just think about how, I mean, when I think about familial ties, just how many there are at LC. Because you have, you know, Jaden Phillips with Monty and Lonnie Phillips, the Efons, who another one of Larry's teams just went in. Brock was there for the induction. The Blackmans, even other sports. You have Rosie Albert, whose son Cooper redshirted with men's basketball this year. She's a Hall of Famer. Steve Decker, whose daughter doesn't play here, but his future son-in-law is our golf coach. But just the familial ties that you have at LC and how much of a family it is beyond just it's crazy.
I got to see Decker play, so and he was good.
He played for the Angels.
He was good.
He's very nice. I've talked to him before.
Yeah, I enjoyed. I think he is on my autographed baseball that I have. Dale Bonfield played. You know, I have Dale. I think he was signed on that baseball too. So I could be wrong. Danny will probably correct me, but I think they're all both on that same baseball. So,
but I think by the time Vladdy Jr.'s career is over, that's going to be the father-son duo that everybody talks about.
Very possible.
If he stays healthy, I mean, now that because he's at first base now, right now they moved him over to first base because third base he was a little shaky, but with the way he hits, that's going to be the father-son combo. If he can win a ring wherever he's at, because Vladdy never got a ring. No,
I don't think so.
No, he lost in the World Series when he was with the Rangers. So Vladdy Jr. can get that's going to be kind of the same thing reversed than with the Griffies because his dad was part of the Big Red Machine. Was he on that? And then, I mean, Ken Griffey Jr. was on the greatest regular season team of all time.
116 wins.
And then they choked.
Yeah, what happened?
Yeah, you didn't need to say that.
They did. It was the truth. I actually just had that conversation with a friend of mine today. Yeah.
So before I let you go, just thoughts on your Angels. You talked about that you're an Angels fan several times on this show and on previous shows. 15-10 to start the year. Couldn't beat Boston today, but off to a good start.
Off to a good start so far. Mike Trout's healthy. Shohei Ohtani's a little banged up, but he's been doing well. Taylor Ward, the American League Player of the Week, it's really cool to see him come out of nowhere. I watched him when he was in the minors, so to see guys like him, who were because I grew up around the minor league stadium, so we'd go watch him all the time. It's exciting. The Oakland Athletics are pretty much out of the mix. The Astros are still trying to find their groove. Same with the Rangers. I think the Mariners are going to be a team to watch in the West, but the Angels have the depth they've been needing for a while now, especially in the bullpen. They re-signed Iglesias, but now they have Aaron Loop's been doing really well, and then you have the Thor signing so far has been good. So far has worked out. Michael Lorenzen so far has been good. It's just a matter of staying healthy, which is really hard for the Angels. I'm actually really excited. I was talking to my mom, so I think she's listening. Hi, Mom. We're looking to go to some games in June down in Anaheim. I didn't get to go to a single game in Anaheim last year. That's the first time since I started going to baseball games I did not see a game in Anaheim aside from COVID. But they're celebrating the 20th anniversary of the World Series at the end of June. So I'm pretty pumped for that.
You're leaving just right after World Series is over. Your plate is
series ends. Series. My sister graduates. Well, she graduated already, but she's having her commencement finally. So I'll leave and go to that and then come back and go on my honeymoon a year later. And then come back and then fly down to California and do some stuff in California. They're having a Shohei Ohtani Snow Globe Day, so I probably hit that game too. And then I go to COSIDA for the Sports Information Directors Convention, basically. And then I come back and then I chill for a little while.
Just a little bit, and then you get
Just a
right
little
back
bit.
into it.
Right into all the fall sports.
I've already been asked by a coach to stat one of the first volleyball games of the season because the opposing SID will not be there. So my August is already starting to book up. Yeah, and then I'll hit Arizona probably at some point and go see my mom. Hi, Mom. But I mean, the summer's the only time I really have to do things, and it's such a short window because fall sports really ramp up in August. So we get our media days out of the way beginning of August when teams report. So there's a lot that goes into it.
And it just rolls all into one year.
It just keeps going. Yeah.
All right, so now I have to scroll back up because I
Okay.
forget. So Cascade Conference starting on Monday, opening round the following Monday, and then the World Series starting on May 27th, all here at Harris Field.
If you need me, I will be sleeping in the press box.
Yes, we know.
Come say hi to Alisha. If you have
Bring
a minute,
Alisha food from the
she likes food. She likes chocolate.
Hot Shots, big Hot Shots fan. Yeah. Well, no outside food or drinks in Harris Field, please. But
yeah. Come up and say hi. And even when she's got her camera running around, and say hi. I have to say this. I enjoy talking baseball with you because you are such a encyclopedia. You love the numbers, you love the game, and that's why we do what we do.
There's a funny story, and Danny will appreciate this. We went to Baltimore a couple of years ago I was working a PGA tournament, and we went and saw a game in Camden Yards, and we were walking. We did a stadium tour because I love that kind of stuff. And we walked by a suite, and the guy giving the tour goes, "Does anybody know why the suite is named after this person?" I can't remember the name right now. The concussions will do that to you. But I squeak up and I go, "It's the guy that signed Babe Ruth to his first professional contract." And everybody looks at me, and the guy's like, "No one's ever answered that before." And then my mother, and she's from California. I'm like, cool.
I know you and I talked about this a couple of weeks ago
because talking about
when I went back to Baltimore, went to my Ravens game in 2018, and the only baseball marker that I did not find, and I remember sending marker. She told me right where it was at.
Yeah,
and I was like, the only one I could not find was Ken Griffey Jr. hitting the home run off of the warehouse.
That was in the Derby, right?
I could not find it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's on one of the pillars.
Yeah, and I could not find it anywhere. And we talked about it one night, one day in the booth, and that's when you told me your story about nailing the name.
Knowing who that was, because his birthplace and museum is just down the street. But that's one of the 14 stadiums that I've been to.
Speaking of baseball, Yankees are going to win 11 in a row.
I don't need to hear that.
It's 9-1 now.
Ugly.
Remember, it was nothing forever. It's 9-1 now. It's nice.
It's not 29-2.
Not yet.
Not yet.
They're still working in the ninth inning right now. Yeah. But Alisha, we very much appreciate it. I know your schedule is always super busy, but it's about to crank up to 11 here for the next few weeks. Hey. So we definitely appreciate it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Of course, it's fun jumping in here and just kind of not being the one having to do all the work for a little bit.
Right.
It's your guys' job.
Well, you are welcome at any point. Come in or at least hop online because we'll be online for the summer and talk Angels all you want.
Yeah, just not next Tuesday or the Tuesday after. I'm a little busy.
Yeah, we are too.
Yeah, I was gonna say you guys are too because you're working for me.
No, you guys are. Next Tuesday.
You're in Vegas.
I'll be in Vegas next Tuesday. So
yeah. But after that, you're working for me.
I'm already signed.
Yeah,
I'm still waiting for World Series schedule.
Yeah, same here.
Me too.
Yeah.
Oh wait. I'm working on it. Well, two things at a time.
Right.
Not one thing at a time. Two things at a time, and that's the third thing.
Again, I already said. I've already told Haley. It's like I'm just there for every game. Whether I'm working for Alisha, I'm working for the Tribune, or I'm working on a radio. I'm just there.
You really, yeah.
And
pretty much.
I figured we'll be picking up our badges like the week before. Just got to make sure we get our shirts. Can't find big man shirts, so I gotta make sure I place my order with you before you leave.
All right, Alisha. Thank you so much.
Yep. Thanks, guys.
All right. That is Alisha Alexander, the SID for LC. She does everything around here.
Always a pleasure having her on the show, and this is crazy to think about. Baseball season almost one full month in, and where some of the teams are at. It's just nuts.
Yeah. Listen, Memorial Day is the day that I really care about record or where standings are at, and even then, it's still too early to care. Yankees red hot. Standings wise, does not matter,
right?
Because everyone's going to go on a hot streak. Everyone's going to go on a losing streak. It's always nicer when you get it going early on, and then you're up there at the top of the standings. But either way, by the way, I very much enjoyed all of this.
That's
We're
awesome.
so far behind schedule now, but that's all right.
awesome.
It was very, very fun. You are listening to the R&R Sports Report on KLCZ 88.9 FM Lewiston. You can also check us out on the R&R Sports Report Facebook and YouTube pages, and that's where you're going to find us the rest of the summer.
Probably, yep.
Because this will be our last time in the studio as far as this school year goes, because, again, May is a jumbled mess for us, and we will get as close to Tuesday at 6 as we can, but we might just have to jumble some things around, and then by the time the World Series is done, school's out. So that's just where we're at.
Yeah, it's going to be crazy. So excited.
Where are we at now as far as our thing?
Do we go back? We hit all pretty much Lewis and
no, I was meaning
LCSU stuff, I think.
we are 15 people away as far as follows go on the R&R Sports Report. Again, if we hit 600, we'll put up the poll and we'll put it up for a week or whatever, and let everyone have a chance to vote. But the winner of that poll will then have a training session at Arnett's dojo, and we will record it, and we'll cut out the puking, I promise, because it's probably going to happen. And one of us will be punished. That's all we know. When we hit 500 last year, we both got punished by Kai Fong in the tennis match. He just crushed us both. But this time, only one of us will get punished.
I unfortunately, something will happen where I bet you we end up tied. What would the chances? It'll happen.
We'll just keep it live at that point. I think that's just what it is.
So I have one thing to think about.
Okay,
now we just had Alisha here.
Yes,
we just had Alisha.
Mm-hmm.
Alisha was here at an hour.
Yeah,
and spent and loved it.
Mm-hmm.
She's now beat Sean Pullman. Sean, we had on
only because we had to kick Sean Pullman out.
We had him on for 45 minutes. I love Coach Sean Pullman. He's a great guy.
We'll have him in
we'll have him back
August as well.
We've had Gino on.
Mm-hmm.
Alisha and Gino both right at an hour. I mean, wow, where did the time go, dude?
I don't know. And we've also had the two athletic directors, Lewiston and Clarkston.
Oh.
That was about an hour for the football game.
You gonna bring up Wilson?
Yeah.
Corey Williams is awful busy boy right now, as Jason Ulrich steps down.
Yeah, Jason Ulrich, Lewiston boys basketball coach, steps down. Wants to spend some more time with his family. Totally get it.
Yep.
So they are right now on the look for the new coach and the next person. I get a bug after games.
Yeah, and then I was talking with actually Alicia's husband this weekend, and I asked him, I said, so who do you think they're going to hire up there for that spot? But you and I have talked, they've had 8 coaches on the bench before. So do you think one of those coaches?
Well, 2 of them were retiring already.
So
2 of them had their going away special already. So I mean, it's winding down a little bit.
Be interesting to see.
Since we're talking a bunch of baseball with Alisha, we'll stick with the major leagues right now, and let me pull up the current scoreboard. So far, your finals, the Mets and the Braves had a doubleheader. Mets won both ends of that. They won 5-4 and 3-0. Rangers beat the Phillies 6-4, and as mentioned earlier, the Red Sox shut out the Angels 4-0. Going on right now, the Yankees are very, very close to their 11th straight victory. They are defeating the Blue Jays 9-1. That's in the bottom of the 9th. Also in the bottom of the 9th, the Diamondbacks are holding on to a 5-4 lead against the Marlins. Twins over the Orioles, Danny. I apologize. 7-2, in the bottom of the 9th. White Sox are winning the Battle of Chicago as they lead the Cubs 3-1 in the 7th. Brewers over the Reds 5-3 in the 7th. Astros 1-0 over the Mariners in the 6th. Rangers over the Cardinals 2-0 in the 7th. Nationals 5-1 over the Rockies in the 5th. And just early on, Rays and Athletics already tied at 1 in the bottom of the 1st. Athletics have the bases loaded with 2 outs. And just getting started will be the Giants and the Dodgers. That'll be your nightcap game. Big news off the field happened like a day after our last show, it feels like.
Why does that always happen?
But Trevor Bauer, who has had his suspension pushed back 1 week after another week after another week after another week, has now been given a 2-year suspension for his sexual assault charges. and another accuser right after that came out of the woodworks. I'm just gonna and before we talk on that, Robinson Cano DFA'd by the Mets. He got his second um, substance abuse or substance bad boy take steroids deal. And the Mets got rid of him. Who plays first, Bauer or Cano? Are we done with both of them?
I think we're probably done with both of them. I really don't see either of them making a huge, huge implant.
Yankees win.
Back.
Yankees win 11 in a row, people. And nothing to see here.
Yeah, 11 in a row. How about not to change off that, but how about the Mets? The Mets are looking unbelievable. Both New York teams are looking.
What was it? I don't know what they at first happened, but it's the first time ever that both Los Angeles teams and both New York teams are leading their divisions at the same time. That's if you count Los Angeles or the Angels from Los Angeles, even though they're from Anaheim. But they're the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim, so it counts. But the Angels right now, 2-game lead over Houston. Yankees with a 2.5-game lead now make it 3.5 over Toronto. Mets with a 4-game lead over Miami, and the Dodgers holding on. Well, it's percentage points over San Diego. Again, standings mean nothing
right yet.
Right now, we're like 20 games into a 162-game schedule.
So instead of saying Houston, you could have said Seattle. 2-game lead over Seattle instead.
I didn't want to say that. Seattle's losing right now.
Well, right now, but come on now. Be nice.
So those are the teams off to a great start. The Cincinnati Reds, not
no,
off to a great start. 3-19. We're just talking about records or standings don't matter right now. Just eliminate the Reds. The Reds are out of postseason play. They're already 11 games behind the Brewers as they're tied for the second worst start in baseball's modern era. That's since 1900. Again, because we're trying to piss off Denny, apparently. The worst start in Major League history was back in 1988, and it was the Baltimore Orioles who started 1-21. And I still bet the Baltimore Orioles in 1988 got more fans in the stands than the Oakland Athletics are right now.
What was that thing you sent me the other day? They had like 7,000 average.
The A's are averaging like 7,000 people in the stands in their home games. Just the fans are tired of them just selling off everybody, and they've decided they are not going to show up.
So do you think do you think Cincinnati ships or sells off more of their players before Memorial Day, or let's say before July 1st?
The only one left is you got Castillo.
You got Castillo and you got Votto.
And you got Votto.
That's it, really.
That's about it.
Do you see both of those guys being moved?
I would think so. Maybe not Castillo. He's still young enough where you could say we're building around him, but I don't know how many years he has left on his contract. Right. Votto for sure. He's got to get moved. Just to be nice to him. Unless he's went, you know what? I'm going to write it out. I want to stay in Cincinnati my whole career. But
be interesting to see what he has, if he has anything in his clause of a trade clause, or where he would want to go and try to keep his career somewhat good, going.
All right, let's get into our power rankings. A bit of change here. It's still early, so I'm still not going way over the top. My top 5, I was between Milwaukee and St. Louis for this 5th spot. Give the edge to Milwaukee right now. Again, standings don't matter, but they are ahead of St. Louis. They're 15-8 to start the year. So I went with them at number 5. San Francisco slipped off just a little bit. They're currently 3rd in the NL West at 14-8, but I'm still, if they're like the Tampa Bay Rays, I'm not selling on them until I see it happen for a long time. I still believe they're going to be a solid team. We talked about the Mets off to their hot start, plus 38 run differential right now. Absolutely fantastic. Put my New York Yankees at number 2, 10-3 at home. Now winning 11 games in a row. That's 4 games higher than any other winning streak early on in the season. Though, to be fair, now with 2 games against Toronto, that makes it look a little bit better. But the teams that they were beating were not great. I think it was this winning streak is Cleveland, Baltimore, and Kansas City. It's not the best of the best.
Right,
And
right.
Toronto's still the only team that the Yankees have played all year long that has a winning record. They've had a nice start as far as easing in with opponents. So I'm not fully buying in yet, but I'll put them at 2. And I've already said it's going to take a lot for me to knock the Dodgers out of my number 1. They're 14-7 on the year, plus 47 run differential. So they're my number 1.
I dropped them out of mine down to 4. But the only reason it's you and I have talked. It's so many things have happened, and you can't really look at anything for about another week or 2, maybe 3 weeks until things kind of balance themselves out. They had a rough last week.
Yeah,
That's the only reason I dropped them down, and that's the reason I brought your team up. I jumped them all the way up into number 1.
Trying to jinx them.
I
jinxed the Mariners last week, and it worked
week
beautifully. You can't jinx these Yankees right now.
Yeah, and so I have the Yankees 1.
Hold on. The Yankees had 1 hit for the first 6 innings. They scored 9 runs in the game.
You need to write that down. How often am I going to say Yankees in first place on my power ranking?
Well, right
now.
Watch out.
But like I brought up, I think the best 1-2 right now has to be the New York clubs. That's why I asked you earlier, what do you thought about the Mets?
Mets pitching staff is gross.
Yeah, they've been playing unbelievable. I have them in 2. Toronto, like you were saying, one of the only teams that with a winning record that the Yankees have beat, and so hats off to those guys. I'm gonna keep them there. Again, move the Dodgers down, but the one that I'm moving up is, and I hate saying it because I was on them last year, and now all of a sudden, I put them there. Let's see what happens. It is San Diego. I put San Diego there. They are improving, so I like what that is, what they're doing, but it's still early, and I think it's still going to come down to the Dodgers and the Giants in that division. So, another week in a row that Denny, I do not have your Baltimore Orioles in the bottom. I do not have your.
Yeah, we kind of were picking on Denny earlier with the Baltimore Orioles. Neither of us have them in our bottom 3. My bottom 3 at 28, the Washington Nationals. I saw some article that was already showing the differences for some crazy stat that people have figured out as far as a playoff potential expectancy percentage or whatever. Washington in just 24 games has went down 28%. They're down to like a 6% chance to make the playoffs already. It's Soto and no one else really on that team. People thought maybe they have a chance. No, there's no chance for Washington. One team has the least amount of runs in this league, and that's the Kansas City Royals. Just 63 runs in 21 games, which still is about 4 runs a game, but with the way some of these offenses have gotten off to hot starts, they just have not at all. So I have them at 29, and it's the Cincinnati Reds at 30. Basically, the bottom 3 could all just say Cincinnati.
Right.
They're far and away the worst team.
Yeah, I have them there too. The only other team that I have that's different from yours with the Washington Nationals is just because, and they come out of the same division as Detroit. Detroit just looks as bad as Kansas City, but all the hype was around them last week when with Miggy playing and all that. So now it's going to be interesting to see how they move forward over the next couple of weeks if they can get themselves out of the bottom for me.
Yeah, for sure. Let's go to the player of the week, and it's pretty funny that we both went Homer.
We did.
You knew I was going to go Homer, and I had to.
I even messaged you.
You messaged me.
I'm leaving the Homer for you.
Aaron Judge.
Yeah.
Hit another home run today. Hit a 2-run double. We had the funny moment because we're waiting for the show, and Alisha had messaged me, said she was going to be a couple minutes late. She showed up on time, but she thought she was going to be a little bit later. And then Aaron Judge hit the home run to tie the game 1-1. I had been texting back with Richie too because they had their last games of the year. His son playing his last games as a senior for Pomeroy, and so we always say when Aaron Judge hits a home run, it's one of 2 messages back and forth. It's either all rise or back up the truck because we want that man to just pay that man his money.
Pay him.
And I sent back up the truck, but I sent it to Alisha instead of Richie. 5 home runs last week. Again, already won today. 11 RBIs, 370 batting average. Needs to walk a little bit more. He had 0 walks last week, but still he's swinging a very hot bat. And that's the big thing with the Yankees right now. Are they red hot at the plate? Absolutely not. But almost 1 through 7 right now are just they could turn the game on its head with one swing of the bat, and Judge right now is doing that. So he's my player of the week.
And the other one, and I'm nothing against him, but Ward also had another great week, and we could easily put him there, but I turned and went a little homerish, um, not taking anything away from Taylor Ward, who Alisha is a huge fan of, but I went with Logan Gilbert. He was pretty much the only shining light for the Mariners this last week after you jinxed him. He did
It
go
worked
2-0.
out.
He did go 2-0. He was the only one that got wins this week. Gave up just 5 hits, 12 strikeouts, but the biggest one was batting average of opponents 1.32
Or 132, yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, I think that was probably the best pitching all week. Yeah, he only had 11 innings pitched, but that was the only bright spot for that ball club this week.
Series to watch. We both went for weekend series because we're already halfway through these early week series, being a Tuesday night show again. Obviously, Yankees Blue Jays is a fun series going on right now. Mariners Astros, very, very interesting early on. Giants Dodgers never disappoints. The fact that it's the top of the second and the A's are beating Tampa Bay 5-3 makes me laugh. Braves Mets is always good, but we both picked weekend series. They both 4-game sets. For me, St. Louis and San Francisco, 2 teams that very much are in the playoff mix.
Yeah, and I'm high on the New York Mets right now. What they're doing up there with that pitching staff, like you said, it is kind of bonkos how crazy those guys are going. So for me, it's got to be the Mets against Philadelphia. That again is a 4-game set, so it'll be interesting there.
Really quickly through the local high school sports is we still got a bunch of stuff we have to get to, but it's the last week of regular season for baseball and softball right now as they get ready for their league play. Is Washington on the same schedule as Idaho? I'm just thinking Idaho right now.
No, I think we start district. We call it district. You guys call it regional. I say we start.
We call it either way.
Yeah,
I call it whatever.
We have some home games this weekend, and then we start next week.
Okay.
I think softball starts the 10th, and baseball starts the 9th.
So around the same time. I know Don sent me a whole schedule of what's going on in May. It's ridiculous. But on the baseball side, Lewiston 16-4, 11-3 in their league. They won both of their games against Lakeland. Right now, control their own destiny. They had 4 games left. They won all 4. Didn't matter what anyone else does. They're going to be the top seed going in. Will host any of their games in their regional. If they could get through their regional or districts or whatever you want to call it, go up to state and then mess up my schedule, but I have no problem with that.
Zach worked the board on Saturday, and then we had the conversation. Since he's sitting right next to me, so I figured, okay, let's bend his ears a little bit. And I said, what do you think about your weekend? Your week busy, in Post Falls. He says, I can't even remember where I play on Thursday. He's got 4 games in 2 days, and then it's just going to be nuts for him with regional starting. So
Post Falls going on right now. Lewiston won the first game 5-4. That was a really close game. Post Falls had the tying run at second with 1 out. Lewiston ended up holding on. Right now, top of the 5th, Lewiston crushing Post Falls 10-2. So taking care of business there. They will finish off the regular season on Thursday on the road against Lake City in a doubleheader. Again, you win both. Doesn't matter what anyone else does. You're the top seed.
Yeah. The Bantams down, just having kind of a rough season as they are 5th in their division right now. Don't know if they're going to make the swing because they've got West Valley, and West Valley has been just brutal to everybody in their division. They are 11-1 right now. They crushed the Bantams on Saturday, 13-3 and 9-0. Clarkson doesn't have a really good game against Rogers on Tuesday. I did talk with Coach Darren McCall. The Rogers crew, the JV, it was uglier than LC's game against Bushnell on Saturday. The JV squad won 32-2 on Tuesday last week. So they got a couple of big games coming up. They'll host in Shadle Park Saturday, and then today they were playing Pullman. No score update for that yet.
Stoughton defeated Grangeville 15-11 on Monday. Nice to see them finally getting back on the field. They did lose both at home against Reardon on Saturday, 12-3 and 15-3.
But they did lose one of the Els boys as he had broken. I saw some pictures from mom the other day. Going to have surgery from what I'm understanding. So he is done for the season. It was cool watching both those Els boys play together on the field, and now one is out.
Osorno will face Chihuahua on Saturday. Softball, Lewiston 13-5 on the year. They swept Lakeland 10-2 and 21-0 in those two games, and then knock off Lake City on Thursday on senior night 11-1 and 15-5. So 10-3 in the Inland Empire League. Still right in that mix to possibly be the 1 seed. They are playing Post Falls in a doubleheader today. I have no scores just as of yet. And then Lake City on Thursday. Good chance to possibly be the 1 seed, possibly the 2 seed, and at least host at least one game.
Yeah, Clarkson girls has got pretty much the number 2 in the district sealed up. They do have a chance to play Shadle Park, who is leading the league 10-0 right now. They do have a chance to beat them on Tuesday next week as they play a doubleheader at Lincoln Middle School at home. So that's the number 1 against the number 2. So come and watch that game. They had a game tonight against Pullman. Again, no score update with that, but some big matchups. Clarkson can move themselves up into number 1 and host, everything if they can make it all the way through. But make sure you come and turn out Saturday. They've got a doubleheader with West Valley, and then Tuesday a doubleheader with Shadle Park.
Stoughton swept both of their games against Reardon. Now 13-5 on the year. They get Colton in a single game today. No score update there. And then Chihuahua on Saturday. And then just one other note, working at the Tribune yesterday, got the call. It was the Kendrick coach that had called because they ended up winning that game. But give out the well wishes to Jordan McCormick Marks. She was the pitcher for the Lapway team in that game and took a liner to the head. They ended up just stopping the game there. It was bottom of the 4th inning, I do believe, when that happened. They took her to the hospital. Could not get a hold of Ada Marks, who's the coach, and I believe her mom. It was obviously she's taking care of Jordan. Reached out to Zach Eastman. I told her it was like a long shot, but maybe you could find out for me. And he messaged me about an hour or two later that she had been released from the hospital and was home with her family. No update today, but hopefully she is doing just fine. Just it's scary.
Yeah, and she's a great basketball player too. We watched her in the Vista tournament, and she's a huge part of this growing program out there at Lapway. So our thoughts and prayers are with Jordan over the next few weeks.
All right, let's move on to the NBA playoffs. It's happening.
Is it?
All right, let's move on.
That's kind of what I told Joe Wright last night. Really? They're still playing? He was watching Phoenix.
And they barely finally got to the second round. Miami's leading Philadelphia 1-0 in that series. They play tomorrow. Phoenix is leading Dallas 1-0. They play game 2 tomorrow. Boston evened up the series against Milwaukee as they won tonight 109-86. Golden State is 1 up on Memphis. And their game 2 is going on right now. Memphis leading 37-35. That's early on in the second quarter. And that's all we have time for the NBA playoffs.
That's
NHL playoffs going on right now. It's very, very early on, so we won't get into that either. But I care more about the hockey playoffs than I do basketball playoffs. But it started yesterday. So let's get into it. Let's get into the NFL news now. And then the NFL will go right into the sports that don't get enough airtime, and we will finish off there. But start off with the news before we get to the draft. Hopkins for the Cards. What in the world?
Yeah.
DeAndre Hopkins suspended 6 games for substance abuse. A lot of rumors are he took something while he was rehabbing from his surgery, got busted. He is now out for 6 games. Kind of makes sense now why they gave up a first-round pick for a wide receiver that's not that good. But they did trade for Hollywood Brown. Thoughts on that trade, Mr. Baltimore Raven?
I still don't understand that move, but they were finally. I was just shocked. I still didn't know what to think when we were talking on the show. With our special. I just, for all the reports that I read after it happened, Lamar knew it was going down.
Stop. Not only did Lamar know, everyone knew. Hollywood Brown was at the Arizona draft party.
See,
he was there.
It's just
Like, they
crazy.
made a pick, and he came out and waved at everybody and celebrated. They all knew.
Yeah.
Like, it was down. They were just trying to wait to see how the picks felt.
Yeah, and then had no clue. None of that came out.
Yeah.
Social
They
media.
hit it out
wise,
pretty
so it
well
was good.
until
So
that happened. But
kind of sad, but it makes
you're
you
not
wonder.
sad. You got a first-round pick for a garbage
And-
wide receiver.
Yeah, well, he stepped up a little bit more. I think we're still one receiver away. We got to find a receiver.
Don't throw the ball. You don't.
We don't need.
You're
to,
a
but
running team, and they proved it.
We've got to keep our running backs healthy. That's the key.
The
100%.
bigger trade was A.J. Brown leaving Tennessee, getting traded to Philadelphia. I get it. Contracts, or Tennessee was not going to be paying what A.J. Brown wanted, so might as well move him. Then he gets a big contract from the Eagles. Let's just get right into our just a real quick NFL draft recap. We did have our special. You can still find that on the R&R Sports Report Facebook and YouTube pages. Once again, thank you to Eric Watkins and Harry Broadhurst for hanging out. Brian Alvarez for fixing their end of things.
Yeah.
They were having a lot of issues, but so he was in the background making sure things ran as smoothly as possible. We went 3.5, 4 hours, had a lot of fun. The Jets and the Ravens stole the whole draft.
Yes, they
So
did.
you and I were extremely happy. We are not going to break down. We're not going to do draft grades because no one knows. No one knows a darn thing.
Nope.
We can be hopeful about picks, but we're hopeful about every pick we make. And I watched far more. I mean, we obviously watched every minute of the first round each of the last 2 years because we did the live draft specials. But I watched more of day 2 and day 3 this year than I think I ever have. And the Jets had 2 of the first 12 picks in day 3 and then never picked again. And I still was enthralled in watching it this year.
Yeah, and I didn't watch near as much on Friday, but before stuff on Saturday, I knew that Baltimore going in that fourth round, we had 6 picks, and I figured we were gonna push one out, but and trade one off somewhere, and it didn't happen, which was very shocking. And hats off to DeCostas and keeping all of them. But I think they bolstered up our line. Got a little quicker. Maybe seeing those 2 guys that they drafted, linemen, can pull a little bit quicker, and when we protect Lamar, make it a little bit more staying with that running quarterback thing.
Thoughts on the first round. A very fast pace.
Very. I enjoyed it.
Very, very much enjoyed it. It got a bit slow as they were trying to jam in all the commercials that they had allotted earlier as things were moving. Just get them in. Can we get commercials on the side, please?
That's what I'd like to see.
The fact that I want to say it was day 2, where it's not as TV heavy as it is day 1, but they still show every single pick on there.
Right.
Obviously, day 3, the picks are just happening in the background. And sometimes they will show the person come out and speak. But day 2, they have a lot of celebrities and a lot of former players come out and announce all the picks. Mm-hmm. There was one point Rich Eisen went, "We are 4 picks behind." This one team was on the clock. They had 4 picks, figured out, but had to wait for somebody to come out and announce them. Because obviously the clock just keeps ticking.
Right.
On the actual draft. It's just being able to announce them or not. We need to
speed it up a little.
Speed part of that stuff up. But I thought at least the first half of that first round went extremely fast. It got really fun with the trades
you put
in the middle.
You put Roger Goodell and you put a chair right on the stage. Bring him out the pick right there.
Yeah. I was talking about like drones come in. We could have a lot of stuff fun.
And even having the assistant or whoever, have them there standing, going.
No, I mean, I get it,
quickly.
Especially in that first round. You have to put the name on the back of the jersey and have the jersey ready, make sure the hat's ready. But again, it was way better this year than normal. It was just the second half. They're trying to just jam pack all these commercials, and the pick would be in for 7 minutes before they would finally announce it. And obviously, it can go faster than that. Lots of wide receivers. 4 of the first 12 picks were wide receivers. 6 of the first 18. Obviously, once Drake London went to Atlanta at 8, and then Garrett Wilson went to the Jets at 10. It was a mad scramble to trade up and get all of the other wide receivers, I'm sure Kansas City and Green Bay just went, all right, I guess we'll wait till tomorrow, because they've had figured some of them were going to drop to them, and it just did not happen. Big surprise, Trayvon Walker ended up being the number 1 pick overall, not Aiden Hutchinson.
I don't think it was a huge surprise because we even talked about we had heard rumors, you had heard rumors that, but we knew it was probably going to be 1-2. I don't think it was a huge surprise, but yeah, I think those two guys are going to start to set the trend of the defenses with what they're going to do. I really think Hutchins is going to be that big name player. Just the way you watched him in college play at Michigan, I think he is going to be one of those players in 10 years, 15 years we talk about that. Boy, you remember in college, he's playing just as hard now in the NFL. So
I love the fact that the Detroit Lions got in trouble with the NFL because they picked too quick, which we made a joke of on our live stream of that they could not have got that in faster. But I mean, obviously you get the hometown boy with Hutchinson at 2. They absolutely love that. I being Homer for a second, having our mock draft was horrible, just like everyone else's mock draft for the most part, especially when Walker and Hutchinson flip on us. And a lot of teams, there was very much 3 or 4 great options for them, and we just didn't pick the right one. But out of our top 10, we got 2 picks right. Both of them were my New York Jets.
Yeah, both went to the Jets.
As they got the sauce. Ahmed Gardner. We're so excited about that. Then you get Garrett Wilson at number 10. And then the big one, everyone thought Jermaine Johnson. We had him at with Baltimore at 14 was your original pick.
Yep.
And we thought that was probably even too low, but what a great spot that would be for Baltimore. Baltimore trades out of that pick, moves down even lower, still doesn't take him. And you're just, I guess they took Kyle Hamilton at 14, but their second pick that they got for the Hollywood Brown trade, then they moved down. They were even picking before where the Jets ended up going, and they get Linderbaum, which is a fantastic pick, I think, for the Ravens. But Jermaine Johnson just is dropping down this draft board, and you can go back and watch it. The moment the Jets logo popped up, I freaked out because you just knew that they were trading up for Jermaine Johnson. They did. I thought the Jets absolutely killed the first round. I loved the running back in the second round. Even it's not the biggest need right now for them, but Breece Hall is going to be a fantastic 1-2 duo with Michael Carter. Both of them can catch out of the backfield, which is exactly what Zach Wilson needs.
He was one of those ones you were excited to watch on Saturday from Iowa State. I mean, he looked the part. I like him, what he's going to do there. And we said it on the show. You guys, we were okay with Baltimore, but we all agreed, all 4 of us, that New York by far, hands down, had the best draft.
Both the Jets and the Giants killed the first round. Obviously, I think a lot of people now are saying the Ravens won the overall draft because the Jets completely sacrificed the second half of their draft to move up a couple times to get these players. So again, they had a couple picks in the 4th round, and then they just hung out for the rest of the time.
I never would have thought that Ojabo would have been still sitting there at pick number 13 in the second round.
There was a few drops. For sure.
You were mad about David Falele. Is that how you pronounce his name?
Just that was the last offensive tackle that I had on my board high enough. We ended up with Max Mitchell the very next pick. So obviously I think that's where the Jets would have went. So I thought that was a good pick for the Ravens. I thought the Ravens had a fantastic draft. I thought Kansas City had a fantastic draft, which is scary.
I know.
So there's obviously, who knows?
It'll be interesting.
Just from the names that we have seen and from the little bit of college that we watch compared to some of these experts, and even them, they're not going to be right. And it all comes down to fit and how they're coached and how they work with their teams. I think most fan bases are pretty excited.
Yeah, I think so, 100%. It is, a couple of those teams address some major problems. I'm still shocked that we only had one quarterback go out of the first round.
First 2 rounds.
Yeah.
None of them went out in the second round. It was
so
weird.
I didn't get to watch much of the second, but just having the one come out, it was a little odd. And we talked about the class being very weak, and it was just.
Yeah, and how about, you were, in a way, you were right-ish. You were down for Desmond Ridder being the second quarterback off the board, and he was
Right.
just at pick 74.
Right.
So
which was odd.
So again, we will absolutely see. We're gonna break down some of the picks that were made 5 years ago, because now that we have some actual NFL experience, just to kind of show people, who knows how things go. As far as WSU goes, they had Abraham Lucas get drafted to Seattle, so right close to home, and Jalen Watson.
I like that.
Cornerback to Kansas City. I think he was 6th round, maybe 7th round.
And I think they're talking about moving him from corner to safety. So that'll be a kind of
wherever
interesting.
Could be a special teamer as well. Undrafted free agents for WSU. Max Borghi goes to Indy. Travell Harris goes to the Browns. Esom goes to the Rams. And Tay Martin, who used to be a Coug, now went to Oklahoma State. He signed with San Francisco.
The only reason I wrote that one down, I thought he was a decent player there for WSU. Went back to be closer to home. He is actually from the same hometown as Denise. They're in Houma, Louisiana. So we've been following him a little bit over the last 3 years.
Schedule news. So the schedule of the schedule continues to slowly come out. So Thursday night football week 2, that was announced during the first round of the NFL draft. By the way, very, very cool that they announced that game, because it's the first time it'll be at Amazon Prime. Why did they wait for the pick to come in to then come out and do it? They should have made the pick, walked off, then walked out while the team is still deciding.
I agree.
Because we're watching with no sound, and we're just, what is a Chief doing out here? It's not even their pick.
What is Tony Gonzalez doing here?
It was a headache. But it'll be the Chargers at the Kansas City Chiefs, the first Thursday night game on Amazon Prime.
Did you tell Doof and them that they're going to be bowling in the middle of the house yet?
Not told them that just yet. But international games will be announced tomorrow on Good Morning Football on NFL Network. That's like at 4 a.m. our time. So I'll be waking up to the news. The home teams are already decided for the international games. Your 3 London games, the Jaguars, Saints, and Packers are the home teams. God, do not let it be Jets and Packers in London. I'll be so sad. That's the only reason I care right now, is there's a possibility it screws up our whole vacation.
So you say there's a chance.
There is. There's a 1 in 9 chance that's the game that they pick. And it's probably actually 1 in 6, because they're not going to send a divisional game.
Right.
I don't think. Buccaneers will be the hometown in the first game played in Germany. That'll be in Munich, Germany there. And then the Cardinals are going to host the game in Mexico City. Those, again, will be announced tomorrow. The whole full schedule will be released on May 12th. The leaks will be coming all the time. I'm still trying to find leaks for this international stuff, because I just want to know. Like, just pull the Band-Aid off if it's the Jets Packers. Oh, man.
Have you saved up enough just in case that does happen?
No. All right, so let's now move on. We had these split up, but again, things get thrown out. But talk about draft grades. We're still not going to do draft grades for the draft in 2017. Didn't have enough time to go through all of them.
Right.
But just to give you an idea of how these go, and try to put yourself back 5 years ago, and whether you were really happy about this pick or not. The number 1 pick was Myles Garrett for the Cleveland Browns.
Right.
Been pretty good.
Pretty decent.
Good defensive end.
Mm-hmm.
We all knew this was a bad pick, but Chicago moved up to 1 spot, if you remember, in 2017, and they drafted Mitchell Trubisky. We all knew that was bad. He is now in Pittsburgh.
Right.
His 3rd team now already in 5 years. San Francisco dropped down to 1 spot. They got Solomon Thomas, defensive end. He will be playing for the Jets this year. So thank you to San Francisco. Jacksonville, I think I loved this pick. Leonard Fournette.
We did. That was the year that you and I talked. As we were getting ready to do our drafts and stuff, that watch out. Jacksonville's going to be the new team that's going to be making a difference.
And he was a fantastic running back. Just whatever happened in Jacksonville, he was a big fit. He's now in Tampa Bay, Super Bowl winner. Number 5, Corey Davis, the first wide receiver off the board. He now plays with the Jets, too. So the Jets have 2 of the top 5 picks on their team right now. Unfortunately, they picked 6th in this draft, and their pick was Jamal Adams, which Pro Bowler. Then they shipped off for 2 first-round picks. So I'm happy with this pick.
Right.
He did well for the Jets, and now look at the pieces that they've been able to bring in. Number 7, the Chargers took Mike Williams. He's been okay.
Okay, yeah.
But not a number 7 pick. Number 8, Carolina Panthers took Christian McCaffrey. If that dude could ever stay healthy, way better than Leonard Fournette, I believe. How about number 9, Cincinnati, John Ross, the wide receiver? He's not even on a team.
I say who? Yeah,
and again, people were excited for John Ross. But then number 10, Kansas City trades up. They take Patrick Mahomes.
That's the smartest move they've done. I think that was probably the biggest
that went,
winner of that draft.
That went okay for them. Number 12, Houston took Deshaun Watson. That was a great pick until everything kind of fell apart. He's now in Cleveland. Your Baltimore Ravens had the 16th pick that year. They took Marlon Humphrey,
still
the
decent,
cornerback.
Yeah, still decent. This injury the last couple of years, so hopefully with Hamilton being the new safety coming in, I think maybe take some pressure off of Humphrey.
All right. Definitely has worked out, I think, especially for a 16th pick.
Right.
How about the number 30th pick? I don't remember being excited or people freaking out about this. TJ Watt, linebacker, one of the best linebackers in the game right now. He went 30th to Pittsburgh. Dalvin Cook, the halfback, went to the Minnesota Vikings with pick number 41. It shows you a lot of running backs. Running backs are round 2.
Right.
Brees Hall, again, very hopeful for the Jets, but we'll see how that goes. Cooper Kupp, obviously everyone here was very excited because you watch him from Eastern Washington. He went pick number 69 to the Rams. Obviously, it's been absolutely fantastic.
Super Bowl champion.
Like, how many wide receivers did we say were in the top 10? Corey Davis, Mike Williams, John Ross.
Yeah.
None of them hold a candle to Mr. Cooper Kupp. And then it gets really fun because there's always those steals in the draft. Pick number 146. San Francisco 49ers selected George Kittle. He's turned out okay.
I don't even remember where Kittle played college ball at.
Right?
That's
with tight ends. We'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see what Jeremy Ruckert can do with the Jets, that Long Island boy. And then pick number 182, the Green Bay Packers selected my best friend, Aaron Jones, who is the lowest pick that year to have made a Pro Bowl. Again, pick 182. There's always people like this. And there's a couple of Pro Bowlers that were just undrafted that they didn't put on there. It just shows you that we don't know.
Yeah, and that's what we hounded on a few times on the special when we did the show last week, is that you're not in the head. You know, we talked about Mel Kiper, we talked about Daniel and all that. You don't know what DeCosta's thinking. You don't know what Jerry Jones. God, we don't want to know what Jerry Jones is doing. We don't know what Pete Carroll's thinking. I mean, just throwing those names out. And what are they looking for? You know, we can all assume, you know, we can all listen to Daniel Jeremiah. We can all listen to Mel Kiper of who and what we need. But it boils down to these GMs and these head coaches. And some of them, you know, we looked at the pick and was like, okay, you know, and then, oh, that's a good pick at that spot. But then look at what happens. We'll pick 182. Who would have figured Aaron Jones would have gotten to that point and then gets the starting nod most of the time.
And others busts and they just don't work out, even though we all thought it was a fantastic pick. We'll see. It's a wait and see process. Again, I'm very, very happy with the picks that just got. Will they work out?
We'll see.
That's the fun, I think, of the NFL draft. And I just wish it was a little earlier in the calendar year because there's enough going on. Yeah,
dude, the calendar looks crazy lately.
All right, let's get into the sports that do not get enough airtime. I'm going to start with Aussie rules football. Both of our teams fell. Fremantle took care of Geelong. It finishes 69-66, which looks close. I watched probably 2/3 of your game. Yeah. It was never really that close.
It wasn't at all. It just didn't look like they had any energy that they wanted to play with. That's what it just kind of. They went through the motions, and that's where it was at with this one. So nothing really exciting to talk about Geelong.
Yeah, my Hawks lost to the only undefeated team left, Melbourne, as defending champions. Lost 91-81. Once again, if Aussie Rules was a 5-minute game, Hawthorn would be the greatest team of all time. I think they scored the first 3 goals this time against Melbourne, jumped out 18-0. Lost the lead pretty quick. Last week against Sydney, they lost the lead and just imploded. I was happy with how they fought back here. Just could not quite get back into the game. They lose by 10. I think the margin should have been a bit bigger, but I'm happy with the young team and the heart they showed this time compared to last week against Sydney. Western, our buddy Eric Watkins' team defeats Essendon 103-71.
He's got to be excited. Finally win.
They're getting going a little bit. little bit. They're 3-4 now. Port Adelaide defeated St. Kilda in a game that I did not watch, and I don't know if I really wanted to. They won 43-42. Not a lot of offense there. Offense for Richmond, though, they defeat West Coast 165-56. So Melbourne's still undefeated. They're 7-0. Your others in the top 4 is Brisbane, Fremantle, and St. Kilda. And then your other 4 in the top 8, Sydney, Carlton, Geelong, and Collingwood. Long ways to go, but that's where they stand right now. Your Week 8 games to watch, which they're still working on TV contracts. I have heard rumors, and I actually watched some because I follow AFL on
Right.
YouTube, and I'll
Right.
put these clips out on one of their sports talk shows that they will do, like pre-games and stuff, that they are working with Paramount Plus to try to create something where internationally we can watch the games on there too. It's not for this year, but that's something that they are working on in the future. Absolutely love it. I want more people to watch this sport. It's fantastic.
I was to say I'm just over a year into it, and I get excited when it's
Mhm.
time to go. So if you want to talk it, let's
Yeah.
let's get together. Let's talk about the rules if you want to go over it.
Absolutely. I talk to either one of us or Eric Watkins if you know who that guy is, and we love this sport.
Yep.
But Friday at 2:30 a.m., so one that you can watch later, Port Adelaide will take on Western at 11:35 p.m. These are all Pacific times. 11:35 p.m. GWS takes on Roberts Geelong Cats. Saturday, again, this is not one I'll be watching live. Well, maybe I get off about this time this game starts, but we'll see how tired I am. Essendon takes on Hawthorn. Hawthorn has 4 easy-ish games out of their next 5, so maybe they can get things going. We will see. It's been a rough road. They got Geelong and Melbourne and Sydney in the last 3 weeks. It was brutal. And then finally, Melbourne versus St. Kilda at 8:10 p.m. on Saturday. It's your number 1 team and your number 4 team. That game should be pretty good. We go to NASCAR. I went to go watch the replay on Sunday after we got done with the baseball games. Just avoided it so I could watch it. Could not find it anywhere, so I finally looked. Got suspended till Monday. But the race happens. Crazy tire issues. There's a hilarious video of Denny Hamlin racing his own tire down pit road. Yeah, I'll have to show you after the show. It's pretty hilarious. Chase Elliott ends up winning his first win of the year. Now every Hendrick driver has a win this year. It's his 14th career win. Ricky Stenhouse Jr. finishes second. Ross Chastain, who's been red hot this year, finishes third. Christopher Bell fourth, and Alex Bowman fifth. Next week, one of my favorite races of the year. I mean, I love Bristol, but the throwback weekend at Darlington, you get some of those old paint schemes with some of the newer sponsors, and it looks cool. Especially with the new cars this year,
yeah.
it's going to be really interesting to see how those all work.
I'll be bowling during that time, so I don't know if I'm going to get to watch much of the race.
Put money on
Chastain?
Maybe. I mean, depending on the odds.
I have to ask Dad.
You have to send me the odds.
All right.
Chastain's going to be a good pick. Kyle Busch will be always a good pick. Any of the Hendrick drivers. It kind of depends on what the odds are looking at like right now. PBA playoffs still going on. I still hate that they spread out the 2 quarterfinals, but I got all 4 quarterfinals right. The ones they showed this week, Tommy Jones defeats Jesper Svensson in a roll-off, and AJ Johnson puts Sean Maldonado out of his poor misery with how much pain he was with his back injury.
Listen, I still got 3 out of 4.
You did.
You can't.
That's fine.
You got 4.
That's a C. You got a C. I got an A. It's all right. AJ Johnson defeats Sean Maldonado. So we're down to our final 4.
Right.
Both of these will be shown on Sunday. You have your number 9 seed Kyle Troop versus your 5 seed Chris Prather. And if I'm not mistaken, are these the last 2 winners of these playoffs?
I think so.
Or at least 2
winners
in the past. Kyle Troop won last year. Chris Prather either won the year before or the year before. I think it was the very first year, and then they didn't do it in 2020 because of COVID. But so defending champions going at it. Kyle Troop's been red hot. It's so tough to vote against him. But I'm going with the house. Give me Chris Prather.
I did too. I typed Kyle, and then I pulled him back out just because Chris has been bowling unbelievable. I think he's finally putting things together. I love the way Kyle bowls in his attitude on the lanes and that. But I'm leaning towards the house too. Give me Chris Prather.
And then the other matchup, the number 6 seed Tommy Jones against the number 10 seed A.J. Johnson. Tommy, he's that old man that just has a bit left in the tank, and he wants to show these young kids who's boss. AJ's not that young, but he wants to show these kids who's boss. Give me Tommy Johnson.
Listen, yes, they say he's the old man, but he's 43. Yeah, I mean, he's not old to the point of where he's bowling with the seniors.
Mhm.
But I mean, he looked really good this last week. I'm gonna lean. It's not because of Tommy, but I'm gonna lean towards AJ just because of the feel good story. I mean, AJ's bowling for a lot of emotions. You watched when he won there the other night, and when he was talking to Maldonado, so. I'm gonna lean. I'm gonna jump on the AJ train, and he's gonna be in the finals. I did put on here, just because a lot of these guys, you talked about old guys, but the PBA Senior Tour happened. Parker Bohm wins the. Check out this name, the 2022 Florida Blue Medicare PBA 50 over National Championship.
Of course, Medicare is sponsoring a senior bowling tour.
But Parker Bohm comes out, there's some history with Parker Bohm with the Lewis Clark Valley. But he ends up winning that. His son right now, good college bowler, great family there. He does win that one down in Florida. Brad Angelo finishes second, Jason Couch third, Troy Lint fourth, and Mr. Pete Weber finishes fifth. We turn and look at PGA. We look at John Rahm. He was the favorite going in. He goes wire to wire, wins it there in Mexico with 17 under. But I think the bigger news was what happened on Sunday. Tony Finau and Brandon Wu both shot 63 on Sunday and were tied for 15th going into Sunday's round, and end up losing by one shot. I mean, both of these guys shoot 63, try to get in contention. There was one other one, Kitayama was in there too, and finishes tied for 16th, but it was crazy to see both of those guys shoot as good as they did and try to make it a big tournament there at the very end in Mexico. So the next tournament is the Wells Fargo Championship that happens in Maryland. That starts this weekend on Thursday, May 5th. Rory McIlroy is your defending champion.
All right, sir. It's this time.
It is this time.
This week in sports history.
This week in sports history, lots of things here to chat about, and this is where we got our pick. Well, congratulations on the draft. This is part of where we got this too. A few things here. We talk about in 1918, Tris Speaker ties a career outfield record for 4 assists. I think we talked about that last year because that's a huge thing to have 4 assists from the outfield. 1987, Chicago Cubs Andre Dawson hits for the cycle. Where we get the family MLB, 1995, David Bell debuts for the Cleveland Indians, which he is the 3rd generation player to play in the MLB behind Gus and Buddy. 1997, Kansas City Royals player Chili Davis. You remember Chili Davis? Didn't he play for
I think he was a Yankee.
I was going to say he played for the Yankees
Yeah.
at one point. He hits. He's the 75th to hit 300 home runs. We also look at 2006. Trevor Hoffman appears as a pitcher in his 803rd game for the San Diego Padres, establishing a new record for games pitched for one team.
Yeah, Chile played in 98, 99.
There you go.
Got a couple World Series rings.
And one Aussie rules one here just for you. In 2006, Australian Rules Football League, a match between St. Kilda and Fremantle ends in the controversial circumstances where Baker is allegedly to kick the ball after the final siren. Following investigations, they do take the game away from them and give it to Fremantle.
Crazy. All right. Stump me, sir.
All right. So couple of different ones. We're going to let's lead to the cycle. How about that? 1987 Chicago Cubs Andre Dawson hits for the cycle.
Okay.
So who has hit for the most cycles, and how many in MLB history have they done it?
That one person?
Yes.
God, I have no idea. I get a hint.
Not many.
Not many.
Not many.
I'm trying to figure out the
I'll
person.
give you. Okay, I'll give you the easy part. The easy part. There was only the cycle by one player's only been hit 3 times, but there's 4 players that have done it.
So I just need one.
Yeah, give me just one of them.
I have no idea. Barry Bonds.
No, there's
clue.
2 AL and 2 NL.
Not gonna help me. Ichiro.
All right, so
I'm just throwing out names.
I'm gonna go
Pete
old.
Rose.
I'll go the old one first, the oldest one first. And AL, it was Bob Musial, and Denny Grubb hits one of them.
Wow, look at that.
Bob Musial, he hit 3. His last one was on July 26th of 1928. So to answer Mr. Grubb, Adrian Beltre hit 3. His last one was in 2015. The other 2 were NL teams. Babe Herman, not Babe Ruth, Herman. Babe Herman, he hits one in 1933, but the last one to do so, Trey Turner. I figured you would have might have caught that one.
My brain doesn't work.
Trey Turner, he was the last one to hit, and he's hit 3 cycles, and that was on June 3rd of 2021.
Crazy.
I got one more if you want it.
Okay, we got go for it.
We got a couple minutes. Who has pitched the most games in Major League history? We talked about Trevor Hoffman, 803 games for the San Diego Padres. Who has pitched the most games?
Cy Young.
Trevor Hoffman, let me tell you, Trevor Hoffman has 1,035.
Oh, it's just
and
appearances?
is 11, and he is 11th on that list.
So it's just appearances?
No, innings pitched.
Oh, innings pitched. Yeah, stay Cy Young.
No, actually, Jesse Orozco.
I don't know who that is.
Jesse Orozco. Oh, my God. You're old.
Not that old. I'm not as old as you.
Yeah.
All right, that's going to do it. I get stumped. You've been crushing me with
I
these.
know. I got to be nicer.
Goodness gracious.
Well, tell you what. Let me take a week off.
Yeah, you take a week off. Keep an eye out on the R&R Sports Report. We will do the show at some point in the next week. It'll be me
Maybe.
and somebody. We'll get the show in at some point, whether it's the normal Tuesday night or not. Because again, opening round, or not opening round, but Cascade Conference tournament is Monday through Wednesday over here at Harris Field. Go check that out. Lewiston, good chance that they will be hosting their regional games. I'll be having the call for the River on those. They play Monday, Tuesday, possibly Thursday, depending on how they do in the first 2 games. So we'll have a busy week. Robert's going to be in Vegas, and then the rest of May, we will be trying to just fit in the show when we can with the opening round going on and the World Series going on. So keep your eyes out on the Facebook page. This will be it for us in the studio for the 2021-22 school year. We'll be back in late August or whenever the next school year starts and get ready for the fall sports. But we are not missing a step as far as on the R&R Sports Report Facebooks and YouTube pages. We'll be here every single week bringing you all sorts of nonsense because that's
always
just what we do. So go out there, support the local schools as far as the sports go. They're all coming down to the end. Richie's son just played his last game as a senior for Pomeroy, so you're going to see a lot of that stuff. Senior nights are going on all over the place. Then you're going to get into all the regional play and state play. Obviously, all the baseball that's going to be happening over here at Harris Field over the next few weeks. Lots of sports to get to. And we'll find out early in the morning if Haley and I need to make a fundraiser to somehow get to London instead of Lambeau Field.
I hope you. I really do. I hope you find somebody leaking something out sooner than
Tonight.
later. Yeah, sooner than later.
Yeah, I'll wake up to it in the morning. It'll be totally fine. At least it's almost here, and then the schedule will be here next week, and then we'll know exactly when all of that is happening. But
I got a funny feeling I'll be getting a text at 4:00 in the morning.
I will not be up at 4:00 in the morning. I can promise you that. Absolutely promise you. I work at the Tribune tonight. I'll be off at midnight. I'll be in bed by 2. Just I'll wake up at 8 or 9 in the morning and find out. That's totally fine with me. But again, I want to thank Alisha for coming in. Always a lot of a blast when she comes on. We talked an hour. We could have had her on for the whole show and just talked baseball the whole time. But we will be talking to her for the next few weeks about baseball for sure. Thank you to Michael Collins and Danny Grubb for pitching in on the comment section. And if you are listening in and you are not following us on the Facebook or YouTube pages, go do that. We are 15 follows away from one of us having to get trained in an MMA practice session. If you want to watch one of us get our butts kicked, this is your chance to do it. We're 15 away. But for now, that's Robert. I'm Randy. We are out.